of my expenditures." She had promised vehemently, and, as far as she knew, she had kept her promise. He had received no more bills, and it was obvious that her haughty chauffeur was paid on schedule time, until, seized with another economical spasm, she sold her car and bought a small electric which she could drive herself. Ruyler, little as he liked his mother-in-law, was intensely grateful to her for the dexterity with which she had adjusted Hélène's mind to the new condition. She even taught her how to keep books in an elemental way, and balance them herself on the first of every month. As Hélène Ruyler had a mind as quick and supple as it was cultivated in les grâces, she soon ceased to feel the chafing of her new harness, although she did squander the sum she had reserved for 3 months, mere pocket-money, upon a hat, which was sent to the house by her wily milliner on the first day of the second quarter. She confessed this with tears, and her husband, who thought her feminine passion for hats adorable, dried her tears and took her to the opening night of a new play. But he did not furnish the pathetic little gold mesh bag, and as he made her promise not to borrow, she did not treat her friends to tea or ices at any of the fashionable rendezvous for a month. Then her native French thrift came to her aid, and she sold a superfluous gold purse, a wedding present, to an envious friend at a handsome bargain. That was ancient history now. It was 20 months since Price had received a bill, and secret inquiries during the past 2 had satisfied him that his wife's name was written in the books of no shop in San Francisco that she would condescend to visit. Therefore, this maddening but intangible barrier had nothing to do with the change of habit that had not caused an hour of tears and sulks. Hélène had a quick temper, but a gay and sweet disposition, normally high spirits, little apparent selfishness, and a naïve adoration of masculine superiority and strength. Altogether, with her high-bred beauty and her dignity in public, an enchanting creature and an ideal wife for a busy man of inherited social position and no small degree of pride. But all this lovely equipment was blurred, almost obscured at times, by the shadow that he was beginning to liken to the San Francisco fogs that drifted through the Golden Gate and settled down into the deep hollows of the Marin Hills, moving gently, but restlessly even there, like ghostly floating tides. He could see them from his library window, where he often finished his afternoon's work with his secretaries. But the fog drifted back to the Pacific, and the shadow that encompassed his wife did not, or rarely. It chilled their ardours, even their serene domesticity. She was often as gay and impulsive as ever, but with abrupt reserves, an implication not only of a new maturity of spirit, but of watchfulness, even fear. She had once gone so far as to give voice passionately to the dogma that no 2 mortals had the right to be as happy as they were, then laughed apologetically and guessed that the old Puritan spirit of her father's people was coming to life in her Gallic little soul. Then, with another change of mood, added defiantly that it was time America were rid of its baneful inheritance, and that she would be happy to-day if the skies fell to-morrow. She had flung herself into her husband's arms, and even while he embraced her, the eyes of his spirit searched for the girl-wife who had fled and left this more subtly fascinating but incomprehensible creature in her place. II. The morning was Sunday, and he sat in the large window of his library that overlooked the Bay of San Francisco. The house, which stood on one of the highest hills, he had bought and remodelled for his bride. The books that lined these walls had belonged to his Ruyler grandfather, bought in a day when business men had time to read, and it was the fashion for a gentleman to cultivate the intellectual tracts of his brain. The portraits that hung above, against the dark panelling, were the work of his mother's father, one of the celebrated portrait painters of his time, and were replicas of the eminent and mighty he had painted: Maharajas, kings, emperors, famous diplomats, men of letters, artists of his own small class, statesmen, and several of the famous beauties of their brief day. These had been the favourite grandson's inheritance from Macewell Price, and they made an impressive frieze, unique in the splendid homes of the city of Ruyler's adoption.